Well, welcome everyone today to our webcast. We have Jennifer McMillan and Rhonda Wiley presenting today to talk to you about Autodesk 2019 courseware updates and new titles from ASCENT. So ladies, I will pass things over to you.
Great. Thanks, Corrine. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I think it's been almost 1 year exactly to the date that we last talked to you about our 2018 releases, so time certainly is flying by, so I think that must mean we're all having a lot of fun. But anyway, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us to hear more about our updates and what we have coming with our new learning guides for the Autodesk 2019 software. As Corrine mentioned, I'm joined today by Jennifer McMillan, who's our manager for learning content development. So she is also our author and our resident expert for Inventor, Navisworks, Plant 3D, and several other titles. Jennifer will be reviewing the ASCENT 2019 release roadmap and highlighting some of the new titles that we have out and those that are yet to come. So we have a lot to share with you today. I think it probably will be easiest if we take our questions at the end. So again, as Corrine mentioned, please feel free at any point during the session to post your questions, and Corrine will monitor those and we'll circle back to those when we wrap things up at the end. Just to remind everyone, again, ASCENT has been recognized by Autodesk, and Jen, if you want to go ahead and change that slide there, as a member of their Autodesk Publisher program. So to participate in this program, we're actually required to meet a lot of strict requirements to participate in that program, and that includes having a minimum volume of published content. We have to adhere to learning objectives and specific technical and quality guidelines that Autodesk lays out for us. So there's a select group of publishers that fall under that brand. Our relationship with Autodesk gives us early access to the software releases, so that means that we get a chance to review the changes that are coming, and then that will give us time to have our learning guides ready and start working on them prior to the release of the software. So our goal is always to have our introductory or fundamental level courses ready to publish as soon as the software is released. So for those that want to get started right away, they have something to work with. Our development team has been hard at work already, and over the next several months, many more titles will be released. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Jen and let her give you those highlights.
Excellent. Thank you, Rhonda. I just want to make sure, are the slides updating there as you're seeing them?
Yes.
Jennifer, yes, they're just moving now. Thank you. Okay,
now,
fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So thank you again for joining me. So I focus kind of on the project management side of all of our content development for the Autodesk products. So what I want to do now over the next little bit is chat with you about kind of our development schedule for our products. Basically, every year what we do at the beginning of the year is we look at what our highest in demand titles are, and we focus on releasing those first, so getting those out to you. So AutoCAD for many years has been one of our top sellers and the highest in demand. So as you can see on the screen, there's a lot of books that have already been released, as well as some really coming soon as well. And again, we do the same thing with our Revit and our Inventor titles, which recently we've been finding actually has been really leveling out with our sales for AutoCAD, which is really exciting, and seeing that 3D adoption coming. In addition to just talking about dates and things, I want to mention a couple high-level changes that we've made in the books as they've been released. Specifically in AutoCAD, there hasn't actually been a ton of changes with the books or with the software. One of the things we did get a recommendation on was that customers wanted to see a little bit of simple block creation in the essentials portion of the book. So that's part 1 of the fundamentals guide. So what we've done is we've added a little bit into that portion of the book on simple block creation. Now, the detailed block creation still remains in the Beyond the Basics book in Chapter 25, but if you're an instructor, just be prepared that there is a new section in there. In addition to that, when we released our 2018 guides, we released them with 2018. The .1, .2 releases that got released didn't get incorporated into those books. So we definitely looked back at those enhancements as well. And one of the big ones there was inserting views as viewports in a layout. So It basically has been made a lot simpler, and we've also incorporated that into our book. So you'll see that in Chapter 14 of the Essentials and Fundamentals Guide. And finally, one of the big changes Autodesk did put in was, again, with the dot releases in 2018, was some work on XREF layers. So again, that's been incorporated into our 2019 training guides. So you can see there's some other dates assigned there and how we'll hit those in the coming months. In terms of our building design, so that's our Revit and Advanced Steel titles, we have already released the Fundamentals for Architecture book. And our MEP book will be coming shortly, so we're anticipating that to release very early next week as well. So in looking at this list, one thing you might notice is a couple name changes. So what we've done is we've aligned the names of the courses more in line with the actual software release. So in previous years, there used to be a Revit version for architecture, a Revit version for MEP, and now it's all one version of the software. So we've aligned that to our names a little bit more with that. So Fundamentals for Architecture, Fundamentals for MEP, Fundamentals for Structure. So you'll see just a few naming. The content is exactly the same, no big changes there. One other change that will be coming this year is to our Site and Structure book. So that was a book we've had out for many years. We were getting a lot of feedback on that book that the structure component of it really wasn't of interest to people. The site tools were what they were using. So what we've done there is we've decided to rework that book. So we've moved structure out of that completely. If you're interested in structure, you need to take the Fundamentals for Structure learning guide. But we're going to incorporate the site designer tools. So that is some tools that is an add-on into the Revit tools. So people can actually look at that book to get some information on the site designer tools. And then we'll flip over. I have a couple other just little things to mention in terms of changes in those the books that are either released or coming next week. There wasn't a lot of functionality changes in the software, and this is going to be a theme you're going to see throughout. So we really took some time to look at what's in the content in the book. We got some feedback, spoke to some customers, got some great comments back. So here's just kind of a summary of a few things that I wanted to mention. Revit links was one that got mentioned we wanted to incorporate, or that people wanted to see in the architecture book. So now we've incorporated that into Chapter 4. And we've also renamed that chapter, so it's actually a little more in line with what you'd be doing, starting your architectural projects. Rooms was another thing that in previous releases was a little later in the training guide. We've now moved that up closer to the beginning of the book, so it's now in Chapter 4. The reason we've done that is in talking with people, we found that the workflow of users using that software is that they would create rooms earlier in the design. So we wanted to move that to be a little more consistent. Another big one, and for you trainers this is important, we've simplified some of the practices. One of the comments we got from you was that some of the exercises were a little long, and they didn't necessarily need to be. It was relying on you practicing things from earlier chapters. So we simplified some of the exercises to really focus on what they're learning in the chapter where they're doing that exercise. So definitely something you want to refer to. I've also asked our subject matter expert that works on this guide to release a blog post. So there'll be a blog post coming this week to really summarize the changes, summarize the full set of changes in that book. So you can review that. And Karine will share that link when she sends out the recording for this session. In terms of MEP, again, similar type things at the beginning of the book where we're adding now linking CAD files into it. So, and we have that in Chapter 3. It was previously in an appendix, kind of as an add-on, and we're just finding a lot more people are actually using that, so we put it right into the book. We also reworked a number of topics in this book and added some additional exercises specific to mechanical, electrical, or plumbing exercises. So again, be prepared if you're an instructor to be able to talk to those exercises. So in terms of the manufacturing, so as Rhonda mentioned, the manufacturing side is my focus. So I work very closely with the Inventor material. Right now we have the Introduction to Solid Modeling book released. Advanced part will be released early next week, followed by Advanced Assembly, and then kind of the rest of them will be coming. There are a few changes. One thing you will notice if you're an iLogic user, there is a lot of changes that will be coming in that book, and you can see a summary in any of the help documentation that Autodesk releases to see how much they've actually worked on that portion of the software. So that will be a bigger change, and once that book's released, there'll be a blog post to support and help you learn what was new in that book. In terms of just little picky things that I thought I'd highlight in terms of what's new, as a Courseware developer, this first one is big for me, and you'll probably have had to explain this to your students as well. In past years, the default orientation of the metric template and the imperial template were always different. So I always notice this because of images that I've had to create and the default orientation. So finally, with 2019, they have now aligned those two orientations to be the exact same thing for both metric and imperial. So I'm sure you'll welcome that change. I know I've had to, and it involved actually changing a number of exercises and kind of creating some new graphics and things like that. But ultimately, to a student, it's going to be seamless. One of the other cool things, just to list some functionality changes, with fillets, they've now enabled you to create inverted fillets. And this is an option directly in the dialog box where you would assign, say, G2 or tangency. You can actually assign an inverted type fillet. So again, a super cool enhancement that they've added. I'm sure there's lots of customers that'll be excited about that instead of having to create a cut to actually create that. In the advanced part book that'll be coming next week, we talk about 3D curves. Helical curves is one specifically, and it's always been a constant. So the one image on the left here, it's kind of a constant helical curve. You now can create variable curves. So this will make people's lives a lot easier if they're creating any kind of variable sweep along a curve. So it's a nice little enhancement, and you'll see that supported and discussed in the content. And probably the biggest enhancement, and I'm saving this one for last, is the whole dialog box. This is new functionality that they've incorporated. It's a brand new look and feel for the dialog box. Unfortunately, this is the only dialog box that looks like this inside of Inventor at this point. I'm going to hazard to guess they're going to be rolling this out across different features, but right now this is the only one, and I have to tell you I really love it. I find it very easy, very intuitive, so it'll be super easy for you to teach your users. The big difference is there's no longer that defining the on hole or on point, linear, those types of holes. It's all done based on your selection. And then you can define out, and it's very intuitive as you go through here. So the material and introduction to solid modeling supports the training of this. The one thing that I really love is you can actually save predefined holes. So a really nice enhancement for your customers that create the exact same size hole over and over again in a model. You can set all of your type, your size, and all of your dimensions properly, and then constantly use that same size. So really nice enhancement as well for manufacturing. In terms of the infrastructure and review type titles that we have, our Courseware developer that works on the civil material has let me know that basically in terms of our civil titles right now, there's really no functionality that affects them in 2019 that involves a lot of changes to the books. So what we've done with Michelle is we're having her focus on the BIM 360 title. So this Autodesk BIM 360, so that's where her focus will be over the coming months. Specifically, she'll be updating the GLUE training learning guide that we have, and as well as release a build learning guide as well. So both of those we're looking and aiming at the June timeframe, so something really exciting and new titles that we'll have coming. And finally, not least important, but the last two, visualization and data management. Autodesk 3ds Max is currently in development. You can see it's going to be available next month. The one keynote that I have for you from our developer is that Autodesk has made a change to how the project folders are established inside of the software. So this was a big change that she found very early on in updating this training guide. And what you'll want to do is be sure that prior to teaching your first class that you understand how this works. The learning guide will actually show what you need, but if you're going into a class without knowing that, it could throw you for a loop. So definitely you'll want to review that material. In terms of our vault titles, again, there's not going to be anticipated a lot of changes in this content, so not too many big changes for you to be aware of. So as you can see, kind of the theme is not a lot of changes in the software, a few things here and there. So with every release, we really try to focus on one thing that we're going to do across all of our books to make things better for you. This year, what we're doing is focusing on the books themselves. So we've created two different tracks, I guess. One being a learning guide, which is focused on the student and learning the software. And the second is an instructor guide. So if you've used our instructor material in the past, you know that you purchase it, you're sent a PDF document that you can print out and use, and you use that in conjunction with what we had previously was a training guide. And you know, an instructor would have that. They'd have to keep both documents kind of going at the same time. So what we've done this year is actually created a specific instructor guide so that instructor can have that guide and all the information very easily at their fingertips as they teach their class. So I've kind of put together just a couple slides to show you what is different in these two guides. The first one being early on in the guide there is a link to the overhead. So just like in the student guide, there's practice file link, but also there's an overheads link. So this is that presentation material that's purchased in with our previously purchased with our instructor guides. And this basically will give you a download link that you can access those files. Previously, that link was provided inside of your order confirmation, so sometimes that didn't get passed on to an actual instructor. Now the instructors can easily find this link for using it. Addition to that, the schedules. So you've all seen schedules previously, but now they're linked right at the beginning of that instructor guide. So super excited to have that in there. It's right at their fingertips again. And one of the nice additions, and I've kind of got a little image at the bottom of this screen highlighting it, is this schedule, having it all at the beginning is nice and everything, but as you're teaching and you hit each chapter, we've added this little note box at the bottom of each chapter page. So chapter 1, chapter 2, each one of them telling you the approximate time. So they don't have to flip back to the beginning to look at your timing. So I hope that makes it a little bit easier for instructors as they're running through their classes. In addition to that, estimated times for exercise completion. If you're using our AutoCAD book, some of our civil books in previous years, you've seen that estimated time inside of your training guides. Now with the release of the instructor guides, we are putting them across all of our books. And we have that in there for you as you're teaching. It gives you the estimated time. Now, the one thing we did do, again from feedback from our instructors, was we took that timing out of the actual learning guides. We heard from a few students that said they find it gets them anxious when they think, oh, I have to complete this in 15 minutes. And ultimately, that information is there to guide an instructor to try and maintain that class time. If students are using this book on their own as a self-paced learning guide, they don't need that time. It doesn't matter how long they take to finish it. So we've removed that from the learning guides and just included it in the instructor version of the guide. In addition to that, the answers now are adjacent to the questions inside that instructor guide. So I think this is probably where everyone is going to go, oh, thank goodness. Before, we would have to flip back and forth between the different documents and flip pages and all that, and now it's all at your fingertips and easy for you to see. So I hope that you like those. We'll absolutely love to take more feedback on that information, what else we might be able to add into the instructor guides moving forward, that type of information. I mentioned our blog a little while ago. I actually posted a blog last month with a summary of all this as well. So Corinne's going to pass that along to you when she sends out the information on this recording, and you can take a look at that blog post if you want more information on the instructor guides. And finally, the last slide for me is just to kind of go over some of our recently released and coming soon titles. We've actually had a number of books that we released in the last few months or in the last 6 months, and I just wanted to highlight those to you. We haven't talked since last year, so maybe some of these are new to you. The first one was one that I specifically worked on, being a manufacturing title. It was a sculpting and T-spline surfacing book for Fusion 360. So that is available now. It's a great book. If you've used our Fusion introduction learning guide, that gives a nice introduction of everything, but it's all around parametrics, and this one is focused on sculpting. If you've not actually used Fusion before, what's nice is I've included all of the kind of upfront interface, all the getting started stuff that you need to know in this book as well, so you don't actually need to buy that other introduction book if you don't want it, and are you just going to be doing sculpting. Another one was the 3D annotations and model-based definition guide that we've released this year. So with Inventor 2018, Autodesk released this new functionality. So it was a big component of their update last year. And so we put out a book to support that as well. We weren't going to put that inside of any of the advanced part or assembly training guides. So this is a separate learning guide on its own. In addition to that, and we'll be doing that this year as well, is releasing these one-day focused learning guides, again, around Inventor. We get a lot of feedback that the advanced part and advanced assembly is a lot of great material, but it's 5 days worth of material. And so what we've done is we've broken down those Inventor books into more focused learning so that students can, say, focus on surfacing, maybe in freeform modeling. And it's all the goal in each of those is 1 day worth of content. So basically we've taken and regrouped that information. Another one was around presenting designs with images and animations, design variations and representations as well. So and also just design tools. So if you're just modeling and you want to use some of the advanced tools for modeling. So again, there's a great list of those that are available and will be coming out for 2019 as well. Revit, a Fundamentals for Landscape Architecture book as well was released, and this is really designed specifically to help landscape designers that use you know, the 3D capacity inside of Revit, and enables them, you know, to collaborate with others that are using the Revit tool for downstream use. So, you know, we're excited about that book as well, and it's been really well received as well. And then our latest book, we released this one in February, was an advanced steel book. So this is software that Autodesk has released. It's separate to any kind of Revit tool. And it's a steel fabrication detailing software. So we have now a fundamentals level learning guide that you can purchase to learn that tool as well. So these coming soon ones are really just a review. I've already mentioned them as I've went through my slides. We had the Site and Site Designer for Revit coming out, as well as the two BIM 360 Glue and Build books. So I hope that this covers some of the titles you're looking forward to seeing, gives you a bit of an information on each of them. So what I want to do now is just pass you back to Rhonda.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. So a lot going on and a lot yet to come, but we're excited about what we've got to bring to you in the next few months. Just to, again, review quickly our product formats. So our learning guides, again, as Jen mentioned, we were making a change in the naming convention. So what used to be called student guide is our learning guide, just to make it more appropriate for the end user. So that is the hard copy book. The books, which you might purchase directly through the ASCENT eStore, have the coil binding, but we also do sell through Amazon if you prefer that method, and we do have links to Amazon on our product pages in the website. Those books have what's called the perfect binding, which is a solid spine at the end of the book. You probably have noticed that we have moved over the last year to a slightly smaller size book. This is the same size that has been sold through Amazon, and it's actually the size that we have always sold exclusively for all of our customers outside the U.S. and Canada. But as we have seen our printing costs increase, we're trying to find a way to maintain our book prices to our customers, and so we took this measure to be able to maintain our current pricing, but also help reduce some of the shipping costs because it will reduce the weight and the volume of the orders for those hard copy books. So we hope that's you know, a smooth transition. But that's a little bit of background on that change. We have ebooks, as always, which is a little bit more of a green alternative to the printed guide. It's got a lot of great features like color content. We've got highlighting and note sharing. If you're teaching, you can share notes between the same guide if you have a classroom of students, which is very convenient. And it's also a convenient option if you are having to travel quite a bit for training. You're not having to lug a lot of books with you. And same thing for students that might be, carrying around several books on campus. We have a standard ebook, and then we also have a video enhanced version of that, which it's the same content, and it just includes videos embedded throughout the guide that provides additional resources, during and after class. So the videos will demonstrate the topic that's being discussed. It's not an exact video of the project exercise, but it's a great resource there for the students. As Jen has just illustrated, our new instructor guides are now out. So this is effective for the versions 2019 and then moving forward. So this new book is going to be available, or the guide rather, is available either in the hard copy book or the ebook format, depending on what your preference is. But it's great because it's a single resource for your instructor. But it's also a resource, for anybody that might be working through the course on their own and they want access to that additional content. So there's now no need to purchase a learning guide and a separate set of instructor materials. Now it's all wrapped into one, so you can choose whichever you want based on your training needs. And then additionally, we have digital site licenses. So that's a print-on-demand solution, which is designed really just for high-volume training situations, but it is another alternative. So if it's something that you're interested in, you can certainly contact us, and we'll be glad to give you some more details on that. You may have seen some of our recent marketing going out about our technical writing services that we offer. So this is nothing new, but we just wanted to make everyone aware, of these additional services that we do offer. So beyond the standard content that we develop, our team also is busy with a wide range of other types of projects. So we're assisting customers with editing and creating documentation for projects. It can be related to anything. It could be CAD standards, user documentation, best practices, product specifications, and workflows. It doesn't have to be specific for a training need. It can be, certainly outside of that box. And we find that working with customers, that documentation tends to be something that gets pushed aside for a wide variety of reasons. It could be, time factor. It could be perhaps your company is new and you may not have those resources in place, or if you do have internal resources, maybe they're getting overwhelmed with other things they have going on. So we can also be there to assist, as a backup during those types of times. If you're really just focusing on training and that's your priority right now, our content can be customized in a wide variety of ways. So it can be everything from the simple to the complex, so we can incorporate your workflows, your models. We can reorganize the standard content to make it more applicable to your specific training need if you don't need the standard, everything that's in a standard guide. So just keep that in mind, as you're looking forward. So again, it doesn't have to be, some major project for us to want to discuss it with you. We can start with something quite simple. It can even be, something to help you, incorporate your branding into the material, whatever it might be. But we're very happy to discuss that with you, and our team's willing to or available to chat with you about that. And then, so we'll just move on here to our contact information. So again, like I said, we've thrown a lot of information at you today. If you have any questions, please let us know. You can follow us on Twitter. We're now on Facebook. I don't have that here, but you can go to ASCENTED.com, which is our main courseware page, or our main website page rather, and the Facebook link is there. The 2019 release roadmap is posted also on our website, and that we encourage you to watch that because it will get updated, as Jen mentioned, as we move through this release cycle, which is going to take several months as new titles are released. And if we have to make any adjustments to the schedule, then you'll have the latest and greatest at your fingertips, but it's always there available on the website. And we will get a 2019 price list out there as well in the coming weeks or coming days, I think. Jen talked about, we've got blog posts, so, you know, watch there. There's a lot of great resource information. We typically have blog posts put up after each of our webinars with that will include responses to follow-up questions and things like that, and just readdress the topics that we mentioned on the call. So, but again, feel free to reach out to us with any kind of questions you may have, and I think from there, I'll just thank you from our entire team for your time today. We appreciate it.